Hello, everyone. Uh, we are here with curious discussion on GST. A lot of people are today facing notices with regards to audits and other issues in GST like show cause notices and so on. We have today on our show Mr. Pranav Kapadia. He is a chartered accountant practicing since last 25 years and has been focusing purely on indirect taxes. Indirect taxes include GST and VAT for various Gulf countries as well. Uh, Welcome, Pranavai, for this discussion.
Hello. Hi, Mitesh.
We are having talk on very important questions which people have today. The industrialists, the CEOs, the CFOs, with regards to their GST challenges, which are actually taking away their sleep over the night. So it is very important for us to help them and address these issues. So let me take issues one by one. Uh, what is the typical timeline when the audit can be done by the department? I mean, how many years the audits can be opened by the department?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I think when excise, VAT, and service tax they subsumed into GST, there were different provisions for assessment and audits which were happening in the earlier GST before the pre-GST regime. But what has happened in the GST regime is that there is a audit by the department. After the audit, there are certain show cause notices, and then it goes to the next level. So what has happened under the GST regime is that the timelines which I have given that for how many years, the question is that for how many years the audit can be undertaken by the department. So if we see the act and the rules, there is no time period prescribed that for how many years at a stretch the audit can be undertaken. Practically, when we see the state GST department is issuing notices for one single year at a time for undertaking the audits. The CGST department is issuing notices for 5 years or 6 years at a time for undertaking the audit. And basically, I think the legacy is that the Central Excise Department used to have the SARA audit earlier. The SARA audits used to happen for 5 years at a stretch. Now GST under GST 6 years are completed. The seventh year is under completion right now. So the same legacy is being followed by the central GST department, which was followed by the excise department, and that is why we are seeing notices which are spanning over a period of 5 years or 6 years. So as such, there is no rule prescribed that for how many years simultaneously audit can be undertaken, and if the department, the central department is asking that they want to do, they want to conduct an audit for 6 years at a stretch, I think there is no bar on that. Of course, that's very difficult, but they are allowed.
Okay, so people have to basically keep all the records, data, also the books of accounts, and all the evidences with regards to their GST submissions and how they took a stand in a certain situation, right? For almost 6 years, that is from 2017 till now,
Yes.
so as to be, able to answer all the issues and queries with regards to the audit. Okay.
True.
So what is the situation when the audit is requested by the department generally?
So there could be varied reasons for why a audit is being conducted. We have seen cases where where there are more exemptions are claimed, or where there are non-GST supplies, where there are higher exports, and refunds are being claimed by the department. So in those cases, we have seen more cases of getting department audits, or if there are mismatches, like that the turnover which is being reflected in the GST returns and they are not matching with the data available on the portal. Of course, that mismatch with the IT department turnover, and that criteria has not yet set in. But based on the general criteria of what the turnover is, how much exempt income is there, whether Rule 42 exemption has been, or rather Rule 42 ITC reversal has been done or not qua the exempted supplies. So I think these are some of the criterias based on which the audits are being undertaken.
Oh, okay. So there is no rule book as to this is how it is taken. Like I remember in the case of income tax scrutiny, there were certain activities like if you are crossing stamp duty, valuation of a property transfer more than 30 lakhs, then you will get notice and so on. So are there any such specific rules or layouts or guidance from the department as to they will pick up these kind of cases, or it is completely on the basis of their discretion?
No, there are no prescribed guidelines as such. Of course, the department has come out with the audit manual. They have their internal instructions for how to conduct the audit, what should be the process, what they need to verify in the audit. But the selection criteria, which is there, say for income tax, they come out with a selection criteria for audit. That is not a published document or a rule which is set out that okay, for this parameters the audit will be conducted. Yeah, so the discussion is on the department. They have their internal meetings. Maybe the it comes from the commissionerate. We have also seen cases where certain cases, I'll give you an example. DGGI had verified certain data parameters that there was excess ITC, and they sent few notices for the same company for say 2 or 3 years, and within that there were so many other issues which were coming up simultaneously based on the requirements which was sent to the nodal officers to that nodal officer, and the data was being supplied. Then that nodal officer felt that no, this requires, because based on the questions which are asked by the DG gram or the DGGI, from where those questions have come up, to reply to them they will have to do a in-depth analysis. They have to go a transaction level. They cannot give it on a summary level because GST per se is a transaction tax. So every transaction matters. We need to explain every transaction, what is the peculiarity of that transaction, why it is exempt, or why it is a SEZ transaction which is under LUT and exempt or not liable to tax. So those explanations are required, and it can happen at transaction level and not at summary level. And then we saw in that case the nodal officer transferred the case. He wrote a letter to the audit department that this case requires a thorough audit and a full-fledged verification, because the assessing officer, the nodal officer, is not having any direct rights to issue the show cause notice per se, except based on the other parameters which he may get instructions for. So what they do, they transfer it to the audit department, and the audit department then issues a full-fledged criteria for checking the details.
Okay, so this can trigger from various other agencies also, apart from internal instructions and internal criteria, like DGGI and other custom agencies or any other foreign trade agencies or any other agencies where you are connected and you are dealing with them on various other grounds, like taking any benefits in excise law or any benefits in the customs law or advance authorization or any other import transactions that you have done in the past, which may have any implications on customs as well as GST. So multiple factors can be there through which the data is coming to the department. There is an analytical thought process around it, and then it comes into the audit. So it is not applicable to all the cases across the board, but it is being selected on basis of certain criteria that we can make out.
Correct.
So Pranav,
Mitesh,
I want to know.
I would like to
Yeah.
add one more thing here. In case of say DGGI or DGgram, when there are the notices are based only on the parameters or only on the checking with the systems on the portal through artificial intelligence. Those cases generally, they say, through the nodal officer, then again they send it to the audit. But in case if the DGGI is involved in the cases where it is a summons matter or such other matter where there is an investigation which is going on, then in those cases, generally what we have seen is that directly the next step is the show cause notice and not the audit, because maybe that is at a bit higher level and not just comparing of data based on the artificial intelligence available on the portal. So in case if it is a summons or a tax evasion notice, then there is more likely chance that it will get converted directly into a show cause notice rather than a department audit.
Okay, okay. So there are chances that it may get into a direct show cause instead of a
Audit
department
also.
audit. Because audit will take a lot of time, and it will also do holistic review of everything around GST, not only focused on a particular situation. So
Hmm.
it is not a desk-based typical model like what income tax used to have, that in a particular transaction only that audit can come. Is it possible that only for a particular situation an audit will come and not across the board?
No, I think audit comes and it audit covers all the parameters. Then for specific parameters, you have that ASMT 10 where there's a mismatch between ITC as per ITC as per 3B and ITC as per 2A. For that, they have a separate mechanism which is the ASMT 10 notice. In case that ASMT 10 is so that's a separate route by itself, the ASMT 10. And if the taxpayer is able to reply and convince that okay, this is why I have not paid the taxes, or this is why this credit is claimed, whatever is applicable, so then that ASMT 10 route will next again follow to the show cause notice level. It will not go into the audit process. So let me explain you. I think the process is over here. I think that we need to understand.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, so I think we saw three lines of action basically. One is where the department, as we discussed first, that okay, that the department feels that there are certain transactions which require a holistic checking, and the audit per se takes place. After the audit is completed, in case there are any pendencies of the queries or the observations which remain, that culminates into a show cause notice. That is one line of action we can say. The audit can culminate into a show cause notice. The second line of action is the ASMT 10 notices, which are generally for mismatches and which are, which can be ascertained directly from the returns that are filed by the taxpayer. So based on the returns filed, in case if there are any mismatches on the outward side or on the inward side or under RCM, then for those mismatches, there can be a ASMT 10 notice. Either that ASMT notice can get resolved at the ASMT 10 level, or in case if it is not getting resolved, it will again culminate into a show cause notice. And the third line of action or the third parallel line will be cases where there are investigations, summons by the department, tax evasion notice by the department, and which then again culminate into a show cause notice from those parameters. So I think there are three streams we can say through which the department tries to investigate a particular matter. Yeah, Mitesh.
Okay, great. So let us assume that someone has already got a notice for audit, and that has come from a central department, and that has come for 5 years. So what is the preparatory steps that they need to carry out inside their team or inside their organization or with their consultants before the auditor actually arrives on the ground and starts asking questions or raising the questionnaires and so on?
Right. So generally, what happens whenever the CGST department issues a uh, notice for they send it in ADT 01, and for that the audit process starts, and along with that they give a questionnaire. One questionnaire is about the business profile of that company and the activities, what branches are there, what is the nature of business activity, what are the HSN codes being used for your outward supplies. So the major activity, like knowing the business, knowing the client, knowing the customer. So something like that. So that is one data sheet which they will ask us to fill and give. So we need to give our profile of the business profile and the business activities, COA GST. And the second is they will also ask for a big questionnaire, which generally has 25, 30 line items that you need to provide us all these details. So basically, before we start giving those details, it is necessary that we do our due diligence. We check our internal records that each of the data that we are going to give, those data are duly reconciled. So apart from the GSTR 99C annual returns, we need to check all the sales summary, the purchase summaries, the ITCs working, the RCM working, and whether they are duly tallied with the books of accounts. So there could be differences that in spite of having filed the 99C, there could still be certain differences which are not ironed out at the time of filing of GST or 99C. So it is better to have a internal look and to ensure that all the data is matching. I would go one step ahead. So first is whether the statements are ready or not. Second thing, whether those statements are matching with your books of accounts and with your returns, or what are the differences therein. Third, they will definitely go through the documents. So you keep ready all those documents, your sales, your exports for SEZ. So for SEZ, I can give one example. Okay, that for SEZ transaction, you will require a stamp of endorsement that the goods have been received at the SEZ for authorized operations, and the SEZ officer needs to put a rubber stamp on that he has approved that, and that is one document which is necessary. So there could be various other. So first of all, that all those documents need to be kept ready. Sometimes they do accept it in the soft copy format also. Sometimes some officers would say, no, we want to see the hard copies. Some would, most of them are ready to see the soft copies. But whatever, be it soft copy or hard copy, ultimately those documents have to be aligned. And the fourth part is whether the contents of the document are correct or not. This we have seen that, okay, after giving the summaries, they are reconciled, the documents are given, and then there are errors which are there in the documents. The sales invoice
Correct.
shows one address, the delivery challan shows another address, the e-way bill is not there, and all those things are happening. So I think these four things have to be aligned together. All these things need to be kept ready before making submissions to the department officer, and that will really help.
Correct, correct. So, Pranav, you have gone through so many audits and have helped so many companies in the process of their audits and challenges that they are facing in the audits. Can you tell the people, the companies, the CFOs, the industrialists as to how much time these people spend on the audit? The officers typically come how many days, they spend how many months in the process, what is the exact routine that they follow in the audit, so that people are prepared that they will come there, they will issue the questionnaire, then they will again reissue the fresh questionnaires after looking at the data, and so on, and then they will go back and ask data, and you have to produce the data in their office, and then ultimately they will conclude, or there will be an issue of an order or whatever. So just give us a broad routine as to what they follow.
Right. So the general guideline. So I'm talking about the CGST department right now. So the general guideline is that they are given 3 months timeline to complete the audit. They have a schedule for themselves for each audit. How many days for pre-verification? How many days during verification at the client's place during the audit? How many days thereafter for asking the questions and getting uh, the answers to that. Then an audit observation letter will come, which again has to be discussed with the taxpayer. And then the final ADT 02 audit report has to come. And before that, before the ADT 02 is issued, the final audit report, this central GST department, they have a system of each audit parameters which have come to their notice, which are lying, at a stage where there are certain clarifications which are pending, or there could be a liability. All those points are discussed in their committee, wherein various joint commissioners, additional commissioners, deputy commissioners, and the superintendents and the assistant commissioner, all of them sit together. They have a common meeting. Everybody will put up their audit observations which they have for their taxpayers regarding whose audit they are doing. So all these things will be discussed in an open forum, open committee where all these points are put up, and then those decisions are taken over there. That okay, this parameter can be dropped. For this parameter, you issue the ADT 02, which will further culminate into a show cause notice. And whether the taxpayer is going to pay that tax or he's not going to pay the tax. So basically, this entire process, the general timeline is 3 months.
Oh, okay, okay. This is very interesting that they do open forum discussions and they derive at conclusions basis the discussions with the higher authorities, and this is like a learning platform for the audit team or the officers who are doing the audits, and they take decisions about the material issues and immaterial issues on the basis of these discussions and committee that they form and the decisions that are taken inside the committee. This is very different than a normal audit where a authority or a officer just talks to his joint commissioner and takes the decision as to what is to be taken done, what is not to be done, what is material, what is immaterial for them. So this
Right.
is very interesting. And I want to know finally that what are the tips that you want to give to the CFOs, the CEOs, or the owners of the companies as to whether what should they do while the audit is actually happening? How should they support? How should they deal with the officers? How is the environment when the audit is happening? Is there any toxicity, or it is more friendly, or how it actually happens? Because people are always worried that when they will come on the ground, how will they deal with them, and what will be the repercussion if something goes wrong, if someone speaks something differently and they record the statement, how actually the process happens on ground, and what precautions they should take in doing the process.
Right. Right. So as I said earlier, the first thing will be that the companies will have to get themselves prepared, do their internal due diligence of all their records and documents and statements and reconciliations. So first ensure that you at your level are properly putting up all the documents. We have seen in so many companies the softwares have changed, the ERP has changed, people have changed, data is not available. I think data is a bigger issue that we are facing, that the data are not matching. Although the GST and 990 have been filed, these officers want the data in their own formats. So apart from the general formats which have been made at that point of time, the formats which are getting extracted from the registers or from the softwares, the registers which are getting extracted from the software, they may not be having all the fields which are required by the department officer. So I think first of all we need to cross check that all these things are kept ready. Second thing is this audit is a visit is necessary for the officers. They come and visit the main place of business of the taxpayer. They may come for 1 day, 2 days, or 3 or 4 days, depending on. They generally come in team with one or two senior officers and one or two junior officers. Generally, two, three, or maximum four, not more than that. If it's a big company, it will be four. Otherwise, it will be 2 or 3 persons who would come. Again, this is not a like a investigation. This is an audit and not an investigation. And generally, the department officers have been given the guidelines that you need to educate the taxpayer. Okay, where are their mistakes and what should be done? And this we have seen so many things come out during the audit. They have their own the own way of seeing things, own way of interpretation. Okay, from that also the companies come to know that okay, this is the interpretation which has been taken, or a stand which has been taken by the company, and this is the stand which is taken by the officer. Okay, so either of the stand can be either their stand can be accepted, department stand, or if the company has taken a stand, then it should be ready that okay, this point will further go into a show cause notice and then into an appeal level. But the approach is that okay, whenever they come, we need to be prepared. We need to answer only those things which they ask. लेट्स नॉट ट्राई टू गिव देम मोर. थाली में और ज्यादा नहीं पिरोसना है, जितना वो हजम कर सके उतना ही देना है. So just provide them with what questions they ask, so that is better. Otherwise they will probe into so many things, and sometimes they ask weird questions which are out of the box, or rather not applicable under GST law at all. They ask for why these creditors are outstanding and all those things, which is none of their concern. So such things also we have seen. But yeah, so try to provide them what they ask for and not more than that. And yes, they are generally friendly people. This is not a investigation, although they come to our place. So that is one distinct factor.
Correct, correct. So it is more an educational come review visit than a investigation kind of an environment. So one thing I want to know from on behalf of all the viewers, that what is the possibility that you argue or discuss out certain objections that are raised in the process, and they drop those objections or issues with the help of supporting facts or data or any kind of arguments that you make, or they carry that over to the show cause notice ultimately, and there is no point in arguing once the issue is picked up by them.
Right. So I think the basic focus should be that whatever queries are raised by the audit officers, we should try to resolve those queries so that they don't go to the next level. I think that should be the basis. Because otherwise, we should understand one more thing. This audit team under CGST, there is a separate audit department and there is a separate adjudication department. So the audit is performed by a separate team, and if the audit culminates into a show cause notice, then it is done by again a separate team and a separate officer. For example, in Mumbai region, say if the audit is happening from Vashi office, from the Vashi GST office, there they have their audit cell. Then, and if that culminates into a show cause notice, the show cause notice is done at the Belapur office. Different place, different officer, and again all things we need to explain to that officer. There are two processes and not one process, and those are very focused process finally of all the litigative matters, or matters which are not clarified at the audit. I think it is better to get clarified all the matters at the audit level itself, because otherwise it will consume more time of the teams, and would lead to unnecessary litigation, which can be avoided. So I think it is better to address all and try to address all the queries. It depends on what is the nature of the issue and whether the officer is ready to accept that or not. I can give you one example. Say there is one issue of GST applicability under reverse charge on foreign bank charges. Now, there is one commissionerate which will always probe into that, and they will keep that question alive. Whatsoever matter you do this, they will say in our commissionerate, this decision has been taken. We cannot drop this point. So this is
Okay.
this point would definitely travel to the show cause notice level. Whether again because that is a debatable issue as of now. Other commissionerates are not doing it. Many state department officers, they don't even know that they are not doing that. So within the CGST also, it depends from commissionerate to commissionerate what stand that commissionerate is taking. So those things can also happen.
Okay. So let's go to what next. Say the audit is over and there is an order which is issued, or there is a show cause notice which is issued. So what is the next step that the person should do, or what is the how he should look at the outcome of the audit which is being conducted by the department?
Right. So basically, once the audit is over, they will issue a audit observation letter first, and then the audit report. The FAR is called the final audit report, or ADT 02 in which it is issued. So there are two steps here, or two methodologies here. One is that there could be certain issues which remain, which are not getting carved out at the earlier stage, at the audit observation stage. The queries, the officer feels that no, he needs to put up these points. Now the company may have to take a stand whether they want to further litigate this matter or they are agreeing to pay that liability. For some cases, they may agree. Some cases, the companies may not agree. Some amounts may be smaller. Some amounts may be larger. Okay, so there a decision will have to be taken at that point of time. That how many points? Say there are 10 audit points or 10 points which finally remain in the ADT 02. Okay, out of those 10 points, which could be pertaining to all years or different years, or for different years, there could be different points. Out of those points, which points the company is agreeing to and which points the company is not agreeing. If the company is agreeing to certain points, then it is better that you pay the tax along with the interest thereon. Because whenever a show cause notice is issued, and before issuance of show cause notice under section 73, if any tax which was liable to be paid is paid with along with interest thereon, then no penalty will be levied under section 73. 73 is the regular section under which show cause notices are issued. Here there is one issue wherein the department, especially the CGST department, is always insisting that if you are agreeing to this point, you pay the tax, you pay interest, and you pay 15% penalty. Then only we will not issue a notice under section 74. So they are trying to trigger section 74. Now section 74 is applicable only in those cases which are either due to fraud, willful misstatement, or suppression of facts. And I don't think whenever there is in most of the cases, there is neither any suppression or willful misstatement or suppression of facts or fraud rather. Okay, so but the department is always trying to insist that, and they tell that okay, अगर आप ये नहीं pay करेंगे, तो then I will levy penalty 100%. So,
Mhm.
in spite of having paid the tax with interest, but I think there are certain judgments also to that effect that once tax plus interest is paid, then no penalty can be levied thereon. Of course, it depends on the facts of the case whether the officer may still try to levy that penalty under section 74, 100% penalty may try to levy. But I think it's a good case to argue in both the situations otherwise that whatever before issuance of show cause notice the tax along with interest 100% of that particular point tax is paid along with interest, and this you can take a decision qua each of the points qua each of the respective years. I've seen in one of our case there was a point regarding ITC eligibility, wherein the company wanted to contend it for the first 2 years, 17, 18, 18, 19. They told we will contend for this point. For the balance 3 years, we will pay the tax along with interest. So you can do that. So qua each audit observation, qua each year, you can take a separate stand, whatever you want to take. And for the balance stand, that will culminate into the show cause notice.
Perfect. So, okay. So I think this actually helps a lot to the companies, to the owners, to the directors, CEOs, CFOs, as to how they should look at the audit. What is the typical process of the audit? Who are actually picked up? Which companies are actually picked up for the audit? And how one should deal with these officers who come, and how the visit typically looks like, and then ultimately what is the outcome and how one should handle the outcome. I think this is very good talk, where we covered a lot of important points in layman language, and the idea was to give a ready on the platter answer to lot of questions of these people who are actually facing audits nowadays. So thank you, Pranav bhai, for this good insightful discussion, which was very, very simple, and in simple words and in simple format for people to understand. And we will continue to do some more things which are actually coming on the way for companies and the owners over a period of time on GST, and keep this GST series going on. Please be part of our channel and subscribe, and share this to relevant people in your group or in your social media. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And
Thank
bye
you.
for
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mitesh.